Now, when it really just comes down to the up-and-coming shonen protagonists or heroes of their stories, or at least in this case, just debatably the perfect shonen hero or one that's already on the rise, you might have to just take a second to ask yourself, what are the motives and what are the responsibilities that go into making the perfect shonen hero? And just like before in my parallel video to this one, but on the villains of Shonen Jump, what really composes up the current long-running generation and the newer generation of protagonists and heroes in Weekly Shonen Jump. But of course, just like last time, we're gonna have to take a look back to when some of, if not the greatest shonen protagonists were around to tell and speak that these were the best heroes and protagonists during their time. And for the majority, the few that I handpicked out are most definitely what I think a large portion of the community, as well as myself, are some of the greatest if not most perfected Shonen Jump protagonists that we have seen, of course, have had their series concluded within the magazine. And just to mention this beforehand, there are a few series within Weekly Shonen Jump that I have yet to finish that for the most part people would bring to the table when being asked about the most perfected hero or protagonist in Shonen Jump. And unlike before, I just wanted to mention that a few that I personally wouldn't be able to touch upon because I simply just have yet to see the full extent to their series. For example, Gintoki from Gintama and Yusuke Urameshi from Yu Yu Hakusho are the two biggest ones that come to mind at first. And a lot of people usually give these characters credit for what they're worth, and I've only just seen a decent chunk from both of their specific anime, but just not enough to evaluate them in my opinion when it comes to this topic. So with that being said, I guess it'll only be natural to start off with the protagonist that just makes the most sense, and that would be Naruto Uzumaki from, of course, Naruto. And I get that some people even nowadays, including myself, tend to slander Naruto just because I think for just a mass amount of people, we have simply moved on from Naruto. And you know, for what it's worth though, Naruto really set a template for most of the heroes and protagonists in Weekly Shonen Jump. Especially with our current serializing manga, I don't think we would have a character like Asta or Deku form to what they are today without Naruto. And that's something to take into heavy account when remembering a great, if not perfect, shonen hero. And just like Naruto, we could also say the same thing for Ichigo Kurosaki from Bleach. And you know, Ichigo for a while was a character that to me was a little bland compared to the other main protagonists and heroes in Weekly Shonen Jump. But what really changed my mind on that opinion was simply the fact that just like Naruto, Ichigo set an amazing format for the future Shonen Jump heroes that I myself see being some of the most perfected protagonists in the future. And at the end of the day, it all really just comes down to your own perception of these protagonists, because really no matter how much you either like or dislike a series, credit is always nice to give to those who came first and what had inspired some of your favorite shonen heroes. But enough of the past, and I know I might have dragged on this intro piece for a bit too long, just like the villain video, but I felt that it was necessary to look back at what pretty much forged the protagonists and heroes that we have in today's modern issues of Shonen Jump. So let's jump into what really makes the perfect shonen hero. So just like always, when it comes to the material that is forged into the making of what our present generation has to give to us in a hero, it might be for the most part somewhat difficult to live up to the name of the previous generations of heroes and protagonists, but it definitely isn't impossible. You see, when we take a first glance at an actual rising new generation hero that for the majority has blown up over here in the West, Izuku Midoriya, also known by his hero name as Deku, is a character that for many years now was somebody that I didn't take much consideration for when it comes to such an important question. I thought that Deku was just like any other random Shonen Jump protagonist. His empathy as a character and his goals were so simple-minded and so strangely boring to me at first, but as the series seemed to progress, I think that what I thought was boring and what I thought lacked empathy was just purely ignorant of me to think, and taken into a perspective of just a normal kid that has goals of becoming something that is nearly impossible to become a reality is something I think at least every kid thinks when they're at a young age. And of course, being the main character, those goals are most definitely going to become true, but what makes it count is the journey along the way. And for Deku, it really just seemed that at first he was a crybaby that no one really believed in, even though they knew his character would develop into something great one day. And it's not until people really see the growth and development of a character to really start caring about their unlike-minded goals. So to me and many other people, this aspect about his character can be brought up to the question of what just makes such a great shonen hero. And when you take a character that for me has the potential of surpassing its inspirations, a character that at this point in the series has nothing to lose other than his own life, Yuji Itadori from Jujutsu Kaisen is a character that I see a lot of people, including myself, taking a liking to much faster than a normal Shonen Jump protagonist. Although taking a look into his goals much earlier on in the series, there wasn't really much going on for him other than being able to help people in return for his own life later on down the line. And even now, it's unclear on what Yuji's fate will determine and the outcome it will set for the future of the series. But if we just take a step back and take a look at the bigger picture, it might just be what it really looks like. Nothing too special and nothing too interesting, but a wholehearted character that really only looks for the day he can see the smile on that person's face that he had helped. It doesn't matter too much right now, but in the long run, what really matters is the outcome of the people around him and the friends he has made along the way. And I'm sure Yuji's destiny will change, hopefully for the better, but when I typically see something like this, I know that the assets of the character is truly what makes them a great hero. Now, moving on to someone that isn't necessarily new in the slightest, but can easily be put into the discussion of one of the best protagonists and heroes of all time. Luffy from One Piece is a protagonist that for quite a while now has been my favorite of all time, just mainly because of how he carries himself and what message he spreads throughout his world. And there have been countless times where most people kind of just brush him off as a bland character that never shows signs of character development. And for half of that statement I can agree. You see, the definition of character development is, and I quote, "In fiction writing, character development is the process of building a unique, three-dimensional character with depth, personality, and clear motives." Character development can also refer to the changes a character undergoes over the course of a story as a result of their actions and experiences. Now, Luffy at first glance hasn't really changed when it comes to his personality and motives, but what Luffy has changed from is the undergoing of the course of the story to result in his actions and experiences. Over time in One Piece, Luffy's personality has stayed pretty much the same the whole story, and he's still the fun and laughable character since chapter 1. But to go on and say he hasn't developed over the story is just rightfully wrong. And I mean, I would go into hard depth and determination as for why, but I think we would just be here all day. So to cut it short, for Luffy as a character and what makes him such a perfected hero and protagonist is that similar to Yuji, he can go on about helping people just for the sake of helping people, and in doing so still have his goals in mind and motives to keep him going. And if anyone tries to come in the way of his motives, then, well, let's just say it won't be smooth sailing for you. And you know, when it comes to this next character, I think that for the most part, people would question me heavily for this, especially in a discussion where we had already talked about 3 amazing Shonen Jump protagonists and heroes. But for some reason, just talking about this character and discussing why I think that maybe not right now, but sometime in the future he will become on the same level as these guys, if not greater. Of course, if you took a look at the thumbnail, you would know that I'm talking about Mash Burn Dead from Mashle, Magic, and Muscles. I've talked about this before, and I feel like there has already been just so much to prove from Mash that I just know that this character is worthy of being talked about in this discussion. And when really just taking more of a look on his character on the outside, we know that he is basically just a combined effort of Saitama and Mob from Mob Psycho, but when we take a look at his motives and goals in mind, and especially what his character is more like when we look further into it, Mash really just is the solid definition of an amazing if not perfect hero and or protagonist. He lives in a society where everyone around him has the natural ability of magic, and but for him, he doesn't have any. And you could just say that this is just a mere clone of Black Clover, but who really cares about Black Clover? Just kidding, but in all seriousness, Mash, even right now in the manga, is growing as a candidate for one of the best Shonen Jump heroes in a while, and just the way he carries himself on the inside really shows it. And hopefully by now I can provide a shed of light on the thought of a great if not perfect hero in Jump. Everything that leads from each of their character build up to where they are now is something that I hope most of us can take into account. And without the heroes and protagonists from the previous generations of Jump, none of these characters we have today would even be here. And without the help and inspiration from the ones that came first, the great if not perfect heroes just wouldn't be the same. But I guess that's just what makes the perfect shonen hero. But that's all I have for you guys today. Let me know what you guys thought about the video in the comment section below, and if you want to leave a comment suggesting an idea for a video, be more than happy to do so. I love reading the comments, and maybe if you post an interesting topic, I'll choose yours and make a video on it. And guys, if you did enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Also, forgot to mention, but there's a link to my Discord in the description box down below if any of you would like to join. With that, everyone, my Twitter is @AnimeAugie, and I'll make sure to catch each and every single one of you guys in the next video. Peace.